This week's Retail Week is brought to you by Avail, Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. Never stop pushing. Well, hello again. Welcome to another edition of Crop Life Retail Week. Special edition, live, well, not really live, but live from Chicago for us. We were at our PACE Advisory Council meeting today, which is kind of our, advisory group. Editorial-wise, we go over a lot of what's happening in the markets, and we try to, after spending a couple of months in office trying to figure out exactly what we're all about and what we're doing going into 2018, we run it by a group of 20-some industry experts from across the different aspects of ag, and it gets to be a really interesting conversation, get down and dirty with a lot of these key topics and figure out if we're in the ballpark or heading south or otherwise. So it's a pretty good meeting, I think. Overall, we talked about we talked a lot about consolidation, and I think the interesting part of that was talking about associations, the ag associations, and some of the things that they're going through. We have a number of them on the council, and
as they pointed out, every time you have two companies consolidate, and when you have a trade show or dues due, two become one, so it makes it a little more difficult.
Putting a lot of pressure on them, and we hope to promote a little bit about what the importance of associations and the work that they're doing these days, and get into the sustainability of associations overall. So that was kind of an interesting twist to the conversation. We did talk about dicamba and some of the travails of that, and where we might be winding up with the technology next year.
Yeah, and I know, Paul, I was very struck by the whole dicamba discussion because we have over 2,200 complaints from growers in the middle part of the country, a lot of them from Arkansas, of course, regarding dicamba drift into their fields and cupping of their soybeans. And what was interesting is, one of the proposed solutions for this is going to be training. And it sounds like the retailers and the associations that are under some pressure here from consolidation will actually spearhead the training effort for the applicators to get up to speed on how to handle dicamba. And what was interesting to me, Paul, is one of the other topics we talked about, of course, was Farmers Business Network and their potential impact on the marketplace. And I know a lot of folks are saying that, hey, the special service providers that are the ag retailers versus the FBNs of the world, these two things could go hand in hand. The training effort to keep everyone up to speed is not exactly something that FBN would be offering to the average applicators around the country.
Yeah, and talked a lot too about how we prepare ourselves to do battle against FBN and what sorts of exercises we should go through in trying to figure out how to express the value that we provide. Obviously, with the prices being price transparency and crop protection, how do you do that effectively? Make people understand the cost or the costs behind what we do in terms of storage and movement of product and everything else. And there was one example of a retailer here who actually went through the FBN exercise, and the farmer continued to call him with the kinds of questions you would expect, like, do I have to store this forever? What if I have leftover product? What do I do with the container when I'm finished with it? All that stuff that has been taken for granted in the market from the retail standpoint was kind of laid bare for that particular grower. So it was very interesting to talk about that, and we need to express that value that we provide as the retail distribution channel. So a couple of other observations right after the break.
We want our farmers to be successful, and if they're spending money to put on phosphate in particular, we like to put Avail with it so that a lot more of that gets into the plant. We know that a majority of it gets tied up in the soil before a plant has a chance to work with it. So we like to put Avail to increase that availability to the crop.
Well, welcome back. One of the other topics of discussion was precision agriculture, of course, and what's going on, and there's a real discussion about what constitutes precision. And kind of the false assumption that just because a farmer or someone has auto steer that somehow constitutes precision agriculture practices, and we got a little bit into the discussion of where we saw this at the Vision Conference and the definition of precision, and really what came across was there's really two ways to look at it. One is, I guess would be considered the lower level optimum adoption would be using data at the end of the season to make a decision for the following season. You know, that idea of using data for continuous improvement. On the other side, even more enhanced is using that data in season as it's happening in some kind of a dashboard format, so that you're actually able to make decisions on the fly. And again, it's both of those are data-based and really require you to collect and use data and find efficient ways to make it work for you.
Yeah, and of course I was very struck by the one observation that, you know, in this one speaker's mind, that precision agriculture isn't necessarily what you have in the cab or above ground, but it's more the below ground stuff you don't see that you're doing to help increase your yields or be more sustainable with using crop inputs on your farm. So,
interesting day. There'll be more in the magazine and as we go along, and certainly will be affecting everything that we do through 2018. So, thanks for joining us for this remote edition of Crop Life Retail Week, and we will see you next week. Thank you to this week's video sponsor, Avail Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer from Verdesian Life Sciences.